So we're going to continue with our discussion of charity, tzedakah. We're going to do a little bit more in the Gemara, and then we're going to go to the Rambam. Interesting that Rabbi Green used the Rambam today too. We did not coordinate with each other, but Rambam is a universally accepted source. And Rambam, of course, is the 12th century Jewish scholar and philosopher who took it upon himself really to codify all the mitzvahs. Up until that time, you had the works of the Tanoim, the Maroim, the Mishnah, the Gemara, the Rishonim, the various different commentaries, but no one actually put it all together into one list. And Rambam makes his list of 613 mitzvos, and among those are the laws of charity. So let's just get to the Gemara first, and you have your handout. We're going to read a little bit of it, and then we're going to get to the Rambam. So the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Abahu, Amar Moshe, Lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Rabbi Abahu says that Moshe asked Hashem, Ribono Shel Olam, Bameh Tarum Keren Yisrael. How will we uplift the Jewish people? How will we exalt the Jewish people? Amar Lo, so Hashem responded to him, V'chi Tisa. Chi Tisa is the Sedra that we're going to be reading, not this coming week, but the following week. And the Parsha starts, it's actually a census is being taken, and the Parsha starts out by Daber Hashem Moshe Lemor. So Hashem said to Moshe, Ki Tisa es Rosh B'nei Yisrael. When you count, right? When you actually the word count, it means to raise up the people of Israel, the Fikudehem, for their numbers. And Asnu Ish Kofer Navsho. Each person gives the ransom of his own soul. Lashem B'Vkod Asam. As they're being counted, Lo Yeh Behem Negev B'Vkod Asam. And they should not be a plague or a coronavirus or whatever that should take place among Jewish people. And so basically that concept is introduced in the Torah of counting or census having to do with donating money, basically. You're giving money. And so the idea of charity is presented to us in the Torah. And so Hashem is telling Moshe that's the way to raise up the people. V'amar Rabbi Abahu, so Rabbi Abahu says, Sha'alu es Shlomo, they asked Shlomo ben David, they asked Shlomo, the son of David, the King Solomon, Ad hechan kolcha shel tzedakah, how powerful is the strength of charity tzedakah? Amar lahen, so Shlomo responded, Su'uru'u ma perish David Abba. So just take a look and see what my father David said about the matter of charity. It says in Tehillim, it says Pazar nasan levyonim tzidkaso, that you should spread out or basically disperse your charity among the poor people, right? So he says that you spread your charity among the poor people. Omedes la'ad karno turim b'chavod. That if you do that, it will be basically your tzedakah, your righteousness will last forever. So the point is that the value of tzedakah was stressed by Moshe Rabbeinu and also King David in Tehillim. And so now I want to get to the Rambam. You have a handout, the second one, the smaller one, and the Rambam in his great work, the Mishnah Torah, where he actually codified all the Jewish laws. He divided it up into topics, and the book actually that we're learning, or the section of it, is called Hilchas Matnos Aniyim. It means the laws of giving gifts or giving charity to the poor. The first 6 chapters of this book relate to agricultural gifts. So, for example, if you are harvesting your field, so you had to leave a certain amount behind, right? The famous story of Ruth, right? Of Ruth that she was gleaning in the field because Boaz had left behind, as you're instructed to do. So certain parts of the crop had to be left for the poor. And so the first 6 chapters of this book to talk about that. And what we're going to start is those kinds of laws that apply to more or less to us. None of us are farmers, so it's worthwhile to learn the first 6 chapters. But we're not going to be able to do that tonight. In fact, we're not going to be able to get the whole book, the whole balance of the book. But I wanted to start the part that talks about monetary gifts, and then hit some of the highlights. So we're in the beginning of chapter 7 in your handout, and what I've given you actually, you're welcome to keep it because it gives all of Rambam's rules relating financial gifts, giving charity as money, not necessarily as leaving over part of the crop. So the Rambam says, Mitzvah saseh litain tzedakah la'aniyim. It is a positive commandment to give charity to the poor. K'vi ma shero'eh la'ani, as befits that poor person. Right? And Rambam's going to explain that a little bit better. In hoyso yad hanoseh maseges, provided you can afford it yourself. Right? You're not required to impoverish yourself to help another person. Shenemar, and as the pasuk says, Pasach tiftach es yodcha lo, you should open your hand. You should open your hand to him, and it's using Pasach tiftach is a double language, right? You have to say the same thing twice. That's to let you know there's more in it. It's not just you should open your hand. You should open your hand to the extent that you're capable of doing that. V'ne'amar says v'chazakta bo ger tosha v'chayimach, that you should strengthen the stranger who's living among you, and he should be able to live with you. V'ne'amar, and the pasuk says v'chei achicha imach, that your brother should be able to live together with you. So he needs to live in a way that it is comfortable for him to live. So the next one, it says v'chol haro ani mivakesh v'helim einav imenu. So let's say a person is coming, and there's a little bit of discussion right now in the shul about the number of people who are coming daily, basically collecting for various charities, sometimes for themselves, sometimes for a particular charity in Israel, sometimes for what they call achnasas kala, to collect money to make a wedding, and so you can look at it and say that all these people are coming and they're sort of annoying us, or you can say they're coming because they know that they're generous people here, and they're going to come away with some money. So what the Rambam is saying is, if you see a poor person and you avert your eyes, in other words, you look away from that person, do not give him charity, over below saseh. And so he started out by saying it's a positive commandment to give charity. Now he's saying if you look away and you don't give, then you violated not only the positive commandment of to give charity, but you've also now violated a negative. Shenamar, because the pasuk says, Lo sa'ametzes levavcha, lo tikpos etz yodcha mi'achicha havyon. So, in other words, don't make your heart hard against the poor person, and don't close your hand. So if the person comes to you, you should have an open hand and you should have an open heart to help that person. Next one, it says, Lafi ma shechaser ha'ani atom etzuva leitimra. And this is kind of an interesting one, because what the Rambam is saying to you is that not only are you obligated to help to provide for that person, but it's not just his financial need, it's his psychological need as well. Because if he was used to living a certain way, dressing perhaps a certain way, maybe driving a certain car, or whatever it is, if he doesn't have that, he's affected by that, right? So not everybody has the same standard, but people who do have a particular standard, so it says, what's missing for him, you're obligated to give him. Imein lo ksus, if he has no clothing, mechasino, so you need to clothe him. Imein lo kli bayis, if he does not have what he needs for his house, pots and pans, dishes, and so on, konim lo, you have to buy them for him. Imein lo isha, let's say what he's missing is he has no wife, or he can't afford to make a wedding, right? He can't afford to have a wife. So you're obligated, if that's what he wants or he's missing and he's needing, you're obligated to help him with that. If isha masino solish, and it's a woman, same situation, she's coming that she wants to be married and she does not have the wherewithal, and maybe her parents are not able to make the wedding for her, whatever it is. So it's up to the community basically to help her. So even if this poor person today we see him today, and he's in a sad state. But his way of living was he rode on a horse, right? The equivalent today, he rode in a nice car, whatever. The Eved Rutz Lefanav, and he had a servant running in front of him, and that's how he saw himself, and that's how the community saw him. Ve'ani v'yorad min achasav, and he became poor, and his financial situation was diminished. Konin lo sus l'rkov, so we buy him a horse to ride on. Ve'eved larutz lefanav, and we obtain a servant for him to run in front of him. Shenemar, because the pasuk says, "De machsaro asher yachsarlo," that you have to fulfill that which he is missing, what's lacking to him. So what is lacking to me may not be lacking to that person, but we need to sort of restore their psychological well-being as well. Umitsuva ata lashlim chesrona. You're obligated. That's part of the mitzvah of charity. You're obligated. Yes, Eugene.
Back to the wedding, if I may. Halakhically, in order for someone to get married, you need a witness, and you can be married. Where does it say halakhically you have to have a big wedding?
Wait, we're going to get to it. We're going to get into what does it mean to have a wedding or to get married. They had a different standard than we had, but they believe that before a person gets married, he should have a house, he should have a job, he should have they said that you need to, first he has to learn a trade or a skill, and he has to build a house, so that when he gets married, there's a place for that. So if he can't do it for himself and his family can't do it for him, it's up to the community to provide that. Not necessarily to make him an affair with 500 guests. That's not exactly what they're talking about. But those items that he needs in order to properly get married, those are the things that we're obligated to provide for him.
Where does it say this halakhically?
So that's what Rambam is doing for us. What Rambam is doing is he's taking the Torah and the Gemara and the Mishnah, all the different sources that are out there, and he put it together into one code. He was the first one to do it, and he took it on himself. It was a very bold and courageous act that he did, and he was respected and he was criticized too, and he wasn't always what he said was not always accepted. The Ramah and others disagreed with him, and later on we had the Shulchan Aruch, and now we have Mishnah Berurah and other sources. But the Rambam was the first one, and he's explaining what it means to fulfill these mitzvos. And if you remember what Rabbi Green said earlier, that we're living as rabbinic Jews, right? So the Torah that we observe is basically the Torah Shebiksav, explained and interpreted by the Torah Shebal Peh. So what we believe is that at the time that the Torah, the five books of the Torah, right, the Chumash that we read all the time, the Torah scroll, that's what was given at Har Sinai to Moshe Rabbeinu. God dictated it, Moshe wrote it down. But he also was given the oral law, the Torah Shebal Peh, which explains and expands on the Torah law. So last week or 2 weeks ago we had an eye for an eye, right? One of the most famous mischaracterizations of the Torah, right? Where the Torah says an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. And so we know we understand it to mean financial compensation, right? If somebody injures another person, then he needs to compensate him for that financially. That doesn't mean that if one person injures another and blinds him, then you got to blind that person or knock his tooth out. You're obligated to knock his tooth out. You compensate him for it. So that's an example of the oral law versus the written law. And so what the Rambam is doing is he's writing down what all the material that he's learned and been able to gather together and creating a code listing the 613 mitzvahs, because our tradition says that there are 613 mitzvahs. And he gives a list of all of them, and he goes into them all and explains how they are to be observed. So what he's telling us that it's our job to prepare a young couple for married life by building a house for them, seeing to it that that at least the husband is learn how to earn a living and so on, and maybe even the dishes and pots and pans in the house. So the Torah doesn't say that specifically, but at the same time as the written law was given, the oral law was given too. And the Rambam is basically writing down for us. It's a little tough one, really, because you have to be willing to accept that. But the fact is that without the oral law, we could not possibly observe our religion. Just couldn't do it, because there's so many instructions in the Torah which are not elaborated, right? There's no detail, right? We're you don't cook a kid in its mother's milk. Well, okay, but I can't have a milkshake with my chicken sandwich either, right? So, but that doesn't say that in the Torah, because chickens don't give milk, right? So there's no way you can cook a chicken in its mother's milk. But because at the same time as the written law was given, the oral law was given too, and that's how we're able to observe our religion. Otherwise, it would be impossible. Just would not make any sense. I mean, you can think of almost any area of Jewish life. Circumcision, how is that performed? Tzitzis, tefillin, everything that we do. Without the oral law, it would not be possible to observe it. So I'm going to ask you now to go to, in your book, I think it's page 70. We're going to skip a couple of chapters, because Rambam in this chapter gives his famous 8 levels of charity, and we're going to get to that. I hope we'll be able to see what he called the 8 levels, basically from the best way to give charity to the minimal way to give charity. So, in the beginning of the 10th chapter, he says, "Chayavan anu lihizar b'mitzvah tzedakah, yosem mikol mitzvah saseh." We're obligated to observe this mitzvah of giving charity more than all the other positive commandments. Shat tzedakah simon l'tzadik zera Avram Avinu, because a charitable nature demonstrates that you are a descendant of Avraham Avinu. Right? Shenemar, because the pasuk says, "Ki yadati v'laman asher yitzaveh es banav la'asot tzedakah," because in the Torah it says that it's known that Abraham would instruct his children on giving, on being charitable. Ve'en kisei Yisrael miskonen v'das emes omeres ela b'tzedakah. And the throne of Israel will never exist, right? And the truth of the faith can't exist without that tzedakah. And by the way, we translate it as charity, but the root word of tzedakah is tzedek, right? Tzadik daled kuf, which means justice, righteousness. So charity is not something that we do because we're so generous. It's something because it's correct. We need to do it. So, and further, he says, "Shnemar b'tzedakah tikonani," and with charity, then you will be redeemed, basically. Vein Yisrael Negola El b'tzedakah. Then the redemption only comes through charity. Shnemar Tziyam b'mishpat tipada v'shaveh b'tzedakah. And so that Zion means Yerushalayim will be redeemed with charity, and those that return to it will be because of tzedakah. Now here's a good one that a lot of people would maybe question, but it says, "La'olam ein adam ma'anim min tzedakah." Nobody ever got poor from giving too much charity, right? Vein davar ra v'lo hezek niglal b'shvilat tzedakah. Nothing bad ever happened. Nobody ever got damaged, basically, because he gave charity. Shenemar, because it says, "V'hoya maset tzedakah shalom," that the giving of charity, the doing of that mitzvah is peace. Kol ha'merachem merachem emalav. Anyone who displays mercy and to someone else, people will be merciful to him. Shenemar v'nasa lecha rachamim v'richamcha v'hirbecha. So just as that you showed mercy, then mercy will be shown to you as well. V'kol mishu is achzari v'einu merachem. Anyone who is cruel and is not merciful to someone who's in need of help, yesh lachush liyachaso. that you could question his ancestry, right? I don't know if you could, send it to 23andMe and find out that maybe this person is not Jewish. In other words, they're saying if a person is not charitable, then you could question that maybe this person, right? That this type of cruelty is only found among people who worship idols and the stars and so on. Shenamar, because it says that these people are cruel and they do not show mercy. And all the Jewish people and those that basically who are attached to them, who come along with them, they're like brothers. That you are sons, you are children of God. And if a brother is not going to have mercy or pity on his own brother, on who's going to have mercy on him, right? And to whom do the poor of Israel, poor Jews, to who do they look for help? Are they going to look basically to the idolaters and the star worshippers, stargazers, astrologers that basically are chasing after the Jews, basically? They're only going to look to their own brothers. Continuing, his kol hama'alin enov in tzedakah harei ze nikra b'lial. So somebody who turns away, who averts his eyes from giving tzedakah, he has an opportunity to do it, he looks away, he is considered a person who is like a rebel. He's not a very desirable person. Kamosha nikra oved avodas kochavim umazolas b'lial. He's just like that same type of rebellious person that it's very difficult if you are a thinking person to look at the world and believe there's no God. It takes, I heard Rabbi Avigdor Miller one time say that it takes a lot more emunah, a lot more faith to be an atheist than to be a religious person. Because when you stop and think about the entire world, I mean, the fact that we are exactly, the planet Earth is exactly where it needs to be in relation to the sun. A little bit closer we'd burn up, a little further we'd freeze to death. The fact that bees are there and flowers are there. The flowers cannot exist without the bees without the flowers. Everything's such a perfect world. So if you don't see that shows basically it's a rebellious nature, because you're denying what you see with your own eyes. So and when you talk, and so they're saying that a person who refuses or looks away when it comes to giving charity is in that same category, because it says, you should be careful that there should not be something in your heart that has that rebellious nature. V'nikra rasha, and you're called an evil person. Shenemar v'rachami rishoyim achzori, because the pity or the mercy of evil people is cruelty. V'nikra chote, and he's called a sinner. Shenemar v'kora alecha el Hashem v'yabecha achet, because God called out to you, right, in the person of this ani, of this pauper, and you basically carry your sin. V'akadosh Baruch Hu karav l'shabas aniyim, and Hashem is close. He listens to the cries of the poor. Shnemar Shabas aniyim atos tishma. So you should listen to the cry of the poor. Lefichach tzarich li'zar b'tzakosam. So you need to be careful and pay attention. Shari bris karus alehem, because God made, so to speak, a covenant with them. Shnemar v'hoya ki yitzaki elai v'shamati ki chananani. Because Hashem says, when the poor cries out to me, I will listen because I am merciful. So now if we go a little bit further, let's see. Yeah. So we're going to look at number 7, right? Zion or 7. Okay? So the Rambam says, Shmona malos yesh b'tzedakah, zula mala l'mizu. There are 8 levels of charity. One above the next. Mala gedolish ein lamala mimena, the highest level, of which there's nothing that surpasses it. Zeh machzik biad Yisrael shemoch b'nosein lo matana olava, or you take the hand. In other words, you take by the hand this poor person who has been reduced in his financial status, and you give him a gift or a loan. Or you take him into business with you. You make him into your partner. You're working together. Or you actually give him a job. You find him a job, or you give him a job. So you'll strengthen him. You'll encourage him, basically. So you should never need again to ask people for help. While Zen Amar, now this it says, you strengthen him. So basically, if you are able to encourage a person, that's the best way. Now this is the stranger or the person who's living with you. He should be able to live with you. So strengthen him, encourage him, so he should not fall and come into need. Okay, that's the number 8, if you so to say. Pachos mizeh, less than that, so number 7. Hanosin stakal aniyim, someone who gives charity to the poor, v'lo yadeh leminasan, and does not know to whom he gave. Right, anonymous gift. So you're giving charity without knowing who's actually the recipient. V'lo yadeh ha'ani mimi lakach, and the poor person does not know who is the giver. Right, so each person is unaware of who it is that who you gave it to and who gave it to you. Sharei zu mitzvah lishmo, because you're doing the mitzvah. You know, a lot of times people make donations and you know, we're in the middle of a building campaign right now. We're raising money to build a new building here, and we have a list out in the lobby of all the people who have given significant gifts, because you know it helps. People like to be recognized for their charity. So the Rambam here is saying that a gift which is unknown in a certain way, you don't know who got it, and the person who received it doesn't know where it comes from, that's a pretty big level of charitable giving, right? Because that is a mitzvah lishma. You're giving it strictly for the charity. So you're not giving to be recognized, because no one knows that you've done it. Kagon lishkas chashoim shahayis b'mikdash, because there were certain rooms there was a room in the base of Mikdash that was basically a secret room. Shahiyat tzadikim nostin bo chashai, but so secretly the righteous people would put money in there, and so nobody knew when they were giving it. V'aniyim b'nei tovim is parnasim mimena b'chashai, and the poor would come into that room and they would take from it as they needed, but so no one saw when the poor were coming in, and no one saw when the tzaddikim were giving the money. V'karv l'zeh, close to that is hanosin l'tov kupa shel tzedakah. So it's like when you put into the charity box, right? Because you're giving money, and you don't know where that money is going to be distributed, who's going to be winding up getting it, and certainly the person who gets it doesn't know you put in $1 into the tzedakah box in the morning, because he's receiving it maybe from the rabbi's charitable fund or whatever it is. So the person who's giving it does not know who's getting it, and the person who gets it doesn't know where it came from, right? So that's like v'lo yiten adam l'so kupa shel tzedakah, and a person shouldn't put the money into the charity box. El im ken yodea shamamuna nemon v'chacham, only unless you know that the person who takes care of it is somebody who is wise. Yodea lahani kashura k'Rabbi Hanani ben Tradion, and he should be as careful with the money as Hanani ben Tradion. And there's a story about him which I'm not going to get into right now, but basically, so you should know that the money is going to wind up going to the right direction. Pachos mizeh, so now we're going to be number 6, right? She'eda hanosen lemiyitain, so the giver knows to whom he's giving. V'lo yeda ha'ani mimi lakach, but the poor man does not know who was his benefactor. Kigon gedolei chachamim, like the great chachamim, shoyicholchem b'seiser mashlichan amos pistei haniyim. They would go secretly, quietly, and they would throw money into the doors of the poor people. So they knew to whom they were giving the money, but the poor person who came and found the money, they didn't know where it came from. And it's good to do that Umala tovahu, and it's a good trait. Imein hamamunim, but staka noam kashur. If you, so basically saying that it's better if you have someone else who's appointed to do the job, but if there isn't somebody who is competent to do it, so it's worthwhile for you to distribute your money in a way that you know where it goes, but the person receiving it does not know who is the person giving it. Pachos bizes, and now we're number 5. She'eda ani miminatal, that the poor person knows from whom he received the money, v'lo yeda hanosing, but the giver doesn't know who gave it. Kagon gedolei chachamim, like the great wise chachamim, the rabbis, shoyitzoru amokos b'sidneihem, u'mavshil achareihem, and what happened is they would walk along and they would throw the money like over their shoulder, u'boam ha'aniyim notlin, and the poor would come and take it. So the poor person knew who it was that threw the money, right? Kadesh lo yeh lahem busha, so that the poor should not be embarrassed. He didn't have to face the person who's giving him the money. So he knew who gave it to him, but there's no face-to-face contact. Okay, that's number 5. Number 4, pachos bizeh, she'ite lo biyodo kodem she'yishal. You are perceptive enough to know that this person is in need, and before he comes to you and asks you, you give it to him. So that's not the highest level, but that's level number 4, right? Pachos mizeh. Number 3 is that she'ite lo achar she'yishal. So okay, you didn't know, you didn't give, but now the person gives it to you, asks you, and you give it to him. So that in that case, he asks you, you give it. That's the 3rd level. Pachos mizeh. Number 2, the second to the lowest level. She'ite lo pachos min aroi b'sever panim yafos. So that what you give him less than he needs, but at least you give it to him with a smile. At least you give it to him with an encouraging look, a kind word. You know, the idea that Shammai said you should greet every person b'sever panim yafos. It means, sever means, you've probably heard the word svara, means that logic, right? So you should, with understanding. Panim is the face, and yafos is a smile. So that means that when you greet somebody, of course we're careful now about shaking hands because of the coronavirus, but when you say good Shabbos to somebody, you should think about that person, right? I know that's Sherna that I'm talking to, and I show her my face. I don't give her my ear because I'm looking who's better that I can say hello to, because I want to see the next person. So I show her my face and I give her a smile. So it's sever panim yafos. So the same way that maybe you can't afford to give this person what he needs, or maybe you're even giving him less than you can afford to give, but at least you give it with a friendly face. That's number 2. And number 1, the lowest level, but at least it is charity. Pachos mizeh she'ite lo be'etzet. So you give it to him, but you show you're not really so happy to be giving him. It is helping him, but it doesn't really encourage him. So that's kind of the lowest level, but it is a level of charity, says Rambam. And he says, Gedolei HaChachamim hayanosnim pruta la'ani. So the great Chachamim, the great wise people, would give a small coin, at least to the poor. Kodem kol tefillah v'achar kach hispalim. Before, so I guess they had the same thing that we have. There were people in shul coming because they knew that there were generous people there, and so these people would give a prut, at least a small coin, to the poor, and then they would come in and they would daven, shene'amar, ani b'tzedek eches epanecha, that I will show my face basically by I'll show your face in righteousness. So they want to make sure that before they start to pray that they've already given charity for the day. So hoping that that God will look on them the same way as they look on the poor people. And I think we're going to stop there. You have the 8 levels of the Rambam. And
Purim is coming up, and so.
Purim, right? Thank you. Right, that's right. And
I mean,
we have an opportunity on Purim, Matanos Levyonim. That's one of the mitzvahs of Purim is to give charity to the poor, and there will be collections here in shul and everywhere. People who are watching online, in your shuls, I'm sure there are collections as well for the poor. So that's kind of not a bad way for us to end our our semester. I guess we've done this about 12 weeks. And we are thinking about doing something else in the spring. Not sure exactly what that's going to be, but it's been a lot of, it's been worthwhile for us, a lot of fun for us, and we hope that you like it too.
Thank you.